Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a fun-filled, quick edition of the Hardcam Live. Paul, how you doing tonight, man?
Cold. It's rainy.
It's been.
I thought it was April showers, not middle of June showers.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's been hot as hell here. We've had some showers here and there, but it is what it is. But it is heating up, and it's summertime, and making some changes. And before I go any further, have you got me any clips for the people want to see what it is that Pretty Paul Rogers does inside the ring?
No. I'm a failure. I'm a failure as a professional because I'm still, I don't know. I put it all on the promoter and I'm still waiting for clips. So, it's all a lesson moving forward to know better and to cover your ass in these kind of situations.
Well, to the audience, I promise at some point that we will uncover Paul's ass and have him rolling around a canvas with big meaty men slapping meat in the middle of a ring. And for our TikTok audience and our Instagram audience, which is growing by leaps and bounds because of all the nice clips that I've been putting out there, we're still waiting on Paul to throw some of his Japanese classic stuff in there. I've been saving that for him. But all kidding aside, I want to thank each and every one of you for jumping on there and following us at Ringside Syndicate because, dude, we went from a couple hundred views here and there on certain things to now we're up in the thousands of views on clips. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And hopefully that brings you here. We'll bring it right back here to us. And, a couple quick things to discuss is we are moving to Sunday night. Sunday nights. We got a big weekend ahead, so you're going to hear from us on Saturday as well because Paul is so excited. You see the look on his face. He just cannot control the excitement for Night of Champions. And moving forward, what we're going to do on Sundays, we're going to be doing a lot of this because, of course, there's not a pay-per-view every Sunday or a premium live event, whichever company you might be discussing. But on these Sundays, there's a premium live event or like a Saturday because, AEW does a lot of their premium live events on Saturday during football season because of their ownership of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to jump on here. Their pre-show normally starts about an hour before. They're not WWE, which starts like 3 days before. But we'll jump on here about an hour before the actual pre-show starts and give you a rundown of the matches and maybe some predictions. And, in our minds that we've been doing this so long, it's not a prediction. It's a sport. So things we see that are going on and, and go from there. And what do you think about doing on Sunday nights, Paul? Bringing them to our altar that is professional wrestling.
I thought that was our day of rest.
That's the only day I got.
It's like jokes aside, it doesn't affect my wrestling because the type of wrestling I watch doesn't necessarily have their big events on Saturdays or Sundays. So to me, it's like, okay, it works.
Well, really, I follow it to a point, but I don't follow it enough to know when does New Japan do what days would their big show normally be on?
On all different days. It's honestly, it's like from the ground up, the culture is completely different because New Japan's a touring company. A lot of their dates are built upon where they are and what works better. Some shows are earlier, some shows are later. You have to check the calendar, but there's no like Monday night. There's none of that. It's unless it's January 4th, which has been a sacred day in professional wrestling for the last 50 something years. A lot of it is more, I guess, not sporadic. That means more random, but a lot of it's less kind of by the books in the American eyes. It's not Monday, Thursday. There can be 4 shows in a week sometimes.
I was, speaking of the American audience, oh my God, I wished I could remember the quote because I was like, damn, he's not wrong. Um, Something on Dynamite last night. They were, oh my God, how did they word it? Something that Zack Sabre Jr. had said, and it was like, oh shit. It was something about doing a technical wrestling match for the American audience. He compared it to something, and I was like in the middle of doing something, and I just started laughing. I got to see if I can.
I can tell you a quote off the top of my head because I remember him saying it, I think, a couple years ago. Doing technical wrestling for Americans is like performing Shakespeare for pigs.
That's it. That was it. Yes.
Much as this is hyperbole to kind of piss off fans because he can be a heel, he falls in the middle of that spectrum. To a degree, professional wrestling knows that technical wrestling doesn't sell in America. So every time they have these dream matches that are like professional wrestling dream matches, they always happen in London or Japan. If they're either in Tokyo at Dominion, or it was All In, where it was in London, where it was Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson.
Yes.
I think a lot of wrestlers are cognizant of these reactions and go, yeah, maybe certain, I'm trying to think of a bad example, even though that, that's harder than finding a good example. But like, is Chicago gonna appreciate a technical masterclass? You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's a bad example because Chicago's a big wrestling town, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Like, is Albuquerque gonna like Hechicero versus Zack Sabre? You know what I mean? Are they gonna appreciate that catch as catch can style?
Well, you stop and look at a lot of the, the American audience, the companies did it to themselves. Because if you go back in the annals of history, I mean, really, you talk about mat classes, people still talk about to this day. What do they talk about? The Flair Steamboat trilogy. They talk about Savage and Steamboat at WrestleMania, even though Hogan and Andre were the draw. And you go back with, I mean, we've talked about it before. You couldn't sell tickets to this thing now, but back in the the 40s and 50s, they would have a 3-4 match card tops, and the main event would be 2 out of 3 falls lasting almost 2 hours, and of technical wrestling. I mean, technical wrestling, it built professional wrestling in the States, and was it ECW? Was it Vince? I mean, where did we go wrong?
Well, even when you look in the history books, if you compare American wrestling to like British wrestling, even Japanese wrestling, like in the period, that's not technical wrestling. Like if Memphis was compared to Rollerball Rocco, you'd go, that's not technical. You know what I mean? There's always degrees of where you can go, but like those are specific styles that, like, even Mexico, they can appreciate some technical stuff, but Mexico's so over the top that they'd rather something silly and ridiculous that looks cool, that's kind of not logical, and they're like, screw it, it's awesome, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it more, of course, on Sunday before the show, but I saw on Dynamite last night, I didn't even know the Bucks were, I mean, it's logical the Bucks are wrestling at Forbidden Door, but they've got them in a triple threat tag team match against 2 lucha teams. Mystico's one of them, with a partner, and another lucha team. I forgot off the top of my head what it was, but I just said, well, there's the spot fest for the night, because they're gonna go over the top to entertain.
Mm-hmm.
Got to look for it now, don't you?
Well, now I'm curious because Mystico's tag team partner is El Desperado, and if it's El Desperado coming, you're not necessarily going to get a lucha match. Mystico, Masquerada Dorada, yeah, and Shingo Takagi is not a lucha. T10 is a lucha. Shingo's a big beefy boy. He's like 200 pounds, kind of thick. He throws lariats. That's what he's.
Oh, cool. But we go back, like even not disparaging any 3 of those teams. I've said it before when we've had people on other shows that we were on, just talk about how bad they hated the Bucks, and the Bucks for what they are, they're a spot team. That's what they've always been. That and they've been good at it. They've been very successful at it. They were offered WWE contracts. They didn't go, kind of like the Briscoes. But, go back to the original Briscoes, Jack and Jerry, when they had their matches with Steamboat and Youngblood, the Andersons, and you move forward with the Midnight and the Rock and Roll and the Fantastics and the Midnights, Tully and Arn and the matches they had with certain teams. I mean, all those were in what was considered here as technical wrestling at the time. Mm-hmm. And even in ECW, what got a lot of the fanfare, that made the audiences, like outside people, sit down and not the what the hell are they doing type stuff, but like make the wrestling fan look was the Guerrero Benoit matches, the Dean Malenko, the Rey Mysterios when they come in. And it wasn't the Sandman's entrance was cool, but it's like with the Ultimate Warrior, the bell had to ring. And that's nothing against him. That was his gimmick, and God bless him, he made a good living at it. Taz could wrestle to a point. I mean, his suplexes and the stuff that he did got him over well, and then he went to the land of the giants and was Vince looked at him as a 5 foot whatever he is, but he was also 5 foot wide. He could legit choke you out if he wanted to, but he went to the land of the giants, and Vince was like, this guy, no. Vince put him right where he thought he belonged, and that was on the commentator table. And I've always liked Taz as a commentator, but I liked his ECW gimmick. I ain't gonna lie, I popped that one night because he retired because of the neck injury, because the doctor told him he was going to have the neck surgery, and the doctor in a brief, if anybody ever remembers the story, Taz told that the doctor looked at him, and it was a conversation that he said he didn't even ask the question. It just came up. Was the doctor looked at him and basically said, if you never step foot in the ring again, you won't have to have the surgery. It'll heal on its own and you'll be fine. And he was like, wait a minute, I don't need the surgery if I just quit wrestling? He was like, yeah. He's like, I'm done. Okay. And
that's an easy way out.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people couldn't have done that. I mean, a lot of people just can't walk away like that. Shawn Michaels, for all the stuff you hear about him in the 90s and them changing and coming back, they had been after him for years to come out of retirement. And he was at peace with the way he went out. He got to come back from an injury that nobody thought he would come back from and have another incredible run. And was it his first run? No, because the business had changed by the time he got back. The NWO had been a thing, blah, 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 blah. But he came back and I think Triple H said it best. He goes, he said when they locked up, he said Shawn was worried about not being able to perform and give a good match. And he said he knew as soon as he locked up with him, he was still the best he'd ever seen. And for a guy to take 4 years off, I mean, that match they had at SummerSlam might not be your cup of tea, but for a guy that hadn't touched a ring in 4 years, I mean, I thought he performed pretty damn good. But most people can't just walk away like that. But anyway, I think it was the second ECW pay-per-view WWE put on, and they actually they were doing something and they hit Taz's old music of "Beat Me If You Can, Survive If I Let You," and he come out in the old black Taz singlet with the towel wrapped around his head, and I believe it was Kurt Angle he choked out. I could be wrong. You can find it on the internet. I think
that was his first Fed opponent, or that
was his first interaction in WWE. But this is after he had already retired. When he was done.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
He didn't take a bump. He just come out. And everybody popped when that music hit because they were back in the Hammerstein Ballroom. And, he come out with that towel wrapped around his head looking like Taz from the old. And I want to say it was Kurt Angle, but it could have been somebody else. But he put him in the choke and choked him out. Didn't take a bump, didn't take a punch, nothing. He just come out to that, come out to his old music, got that pop, put the choke on, que sera, sera, he was done. So, but like I said, a lot of people just can't walk away like that. But, so I don't know. Technical wrestling. I mean, but you talk about the nights. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it's to me, it's like the match qualities and the match stuff that we get here. You would have big events on Sundays, but you would also have big events through the week. We talked about it. Starrcade was on Thanksgiving, and it makes sense because, when I first got into the bar business, I'd been there probably 3 or 4 months, and the owner had taken a liking to me. And he came up and he looked at me and he said, "Jason, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yeah, what do you need?" He's like, if this was your bar, I said, oh dear God, what do you want? He was like, no, I'm being serious. If this was your bar, would you open Christmas night? I'm like, I'm going to regret this answer. And I just kind of took a deep breath and I said, yes, I would. And he said, why? I said, well, you've got two kinds of people out there when it comes to the holidays. You've got people that A, have no family and they're sitting around, woe is me, feeling sorry for themselves. Or B, people that have family and they're like, I got to get away from these fucking people. Too much of a good thing. And I said, and the only thing open, and this was, back in the 90s, the only thing really open on Christmas night is the movie theater for kids. Take your kids to see a movie. I said the adults, especially the adults that don't have any family or their family's out of town and they can't come in, they have nothing to do. And they would love to go out to a memory and buttocks bar and have a beer. And he's like, oh, okay. All right, I'll let you know. Next day he comes up, Jason, what? I'm going to need a DJ Christmas night. I'm like, yeah. Ray Charles saw that one coming. And I said, look, I said, what time are you opening? He said 8. I said, you got to turn some music on. I said, I'll get here as soon as I can. I got kids. I got stuff to do. I said, but I'll get here as quick as I can. I got there about 8:30. And there's 4 or 5 regulars in there that I expected to see. There wasn't a whole lot going on. By 9:45, 10 o'clock, we were packed like it was a packed Friday or Saturday night. And I remember that too because he could only get 4 girls to come in and work. Nobody wanted to work Christmas night. Them girls made a fortune. As a DJ, I walked out with over $2,000 in a 5.5, 6 hour night, and they made a fortune. And see, he's been open Christmas ever since. But I'll say that to go, that's what a lot of people, that was tradition back in the day. They have Thanksgiving dinner early, whatever, and then they would go to the big match on Thanksgiving night. And that was every territory. That wasn't just one specific territory.
Well, here we go. This is Tiger Mask's retirement match. So a guy that's been wrestling for 30 years, they're giving him his own show to send him out. It's on a Tuesday at 5:30, bells at 6:30.
Yeah, and there's nothing in the
How
world.
reasonable does that sound? Where you're like, oh, I can take Grandpa. He loved Tiger Mask when he was little. We'll be home by 9:30. It's brilliant.
No, I agree with you. Like I said, but we've been conditioned to, for so long now. And like I said, that they moved Starrcade. I'll give you, most people know this, some don't, but they moved Starrcade from Thanksgiving to Christmas because the WWE put on the Survivor Series to combat Starrcade. And then I think WWE did something on Christmas as well to do it again. Don't quote me on that one, but he was constantly trying to muscle Crockett off TV, and that was the one thing. He had more pull with the satellite companies and the pay-per-view companies than Crockett did. But then Turner bought it, and they're like, yeah, okay, well, yeah, no, that's Ted Turner. You can either go on with him or you just don't have to go on. That's Ted Turner. We get too much business. But so no, there was the matches that I used to go to at the high school gym when I was a kid, where I met Roddy Piper, where I met Wahoo, Ricky Steamboat. The list goes on and on. They were on different nights of the week when they came through once a month, and it was on different nights of the week. Sometimes it was on the weekend, sometimes it wasn't. I remember.
I think it's a different kind of. I always use the word culture because it like. Even if you watch like Japanese shows that are more meant for younger people, there's a bit of respect for the audience. So I don't know if it's like there's a bit more respect to the audience of the promotion to say like, well, we're on different times. Like you can go to the website and you can see when we are, and go to the streaming service and watch us when we're not in your town. But the American wrestling fans are built on repetition. I remember hearing this long time ago, and I can't ever get it out of my head. They said the difference between Japanese wrestling culture and American wrestling culture is one fundamental philosophy. American wrestling culture is based upon repetition and teaching the audience when they can react to something and oh, now you can react again. Oh, no, you know what I mean? Like the yes chants and the yeets and there's a lot of like, oh, now you can interact, and you're going to be able to interact because that's his gimmick. Where in Japanese wrestling, they make you believe that's the setup to then take it out from under you. So instead of repeating the same spots, they'll start the same spot and then modify the last bit. So you, as a fan, go, "Oh, I've seen this. Oh, I haven't seen." You know what I mean? Everything slightly changes, and there's a bit of like elevation as you go. But that's not necessarily the same, because if you watch a Mania match, it's not that much different than watching a Raw match. But if you watch a Wrestle Kingdom match and you watch Coker and Hall match, there's miles of difference between how they work here, right? So,
Well, it goes back to what we've talked about. Where what I miss a lot too is and I get that it wouldn't work today. I mean, it would to a point, but not the way it used to. Was the infomercial that was the TV that we watched. It was to put those asses in the seats. Let the horseman jump on Dusty or Magnum or whoever, and then Gordon Soley. Tonight in the Omni. Dusty goes out for revenge when he and whoever against.
So here's a silly question, but is WWE incentivized more financially on the television product than on whatever the PLE pay-per-view, like, because Netflix bought Raw, right?
And they also they bought that, and basically they did. They bought it for 5, maybe 10 years. They
got the right.
They got the rights to, the contract is, it's not a WWE stipulation. It's a Netflix has the kind of like a player option on a hockey team or whatever.
Like a yeah.
But
but is this a bit of TNA logic where it's like, we make the money off the television show, not the pay-per-view. So get people to watch book the pay-per-views for the television shows, not booking the television shows for the pay-per-view. But in this model, maybe WWE is just not incentivized to have big shows to big matches. Maybe they see it as a risk. Maybe they see it as not. Netflix pays for television. Let's give them television.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate on that, because ESPN or Disney as a company is paying for the PLEs.
Oh, okay. So there is an incentive financially to.
It's that rights deal, because the PLEs, they had that deal with Peacock, and
so you Peacock, still have to have strongly performing PLEs. You can't abandon them. But I just see the model is so kind of upside down right now. I don't know how they got themselves kind of stuck in this position.
The reason, a lot of people might not know this, but the reason that they chose to put on empty arena matches per se during COVID was the deal that they had with Fox. Now they had that long-standing relationship with USA, but it was something to do because like the first week of COVID when things shut down, they did like a best of show, like year whatever, and I think they did that for 2 weeks or whatever. But they came up with something, because even though COVID was a thing and it was beyond their control, it was something in the Fox contract to where if they failed to provide live entertainment for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're contractually obligated to be filling time. Yeah.
And if they didn't, well, they were filling time. They were putting stuff on there, like the best of and this, that, and the other. But it was something to do with the Fox contract of if they failed to put on live entertainment for so many weeks of, the contract, that Fox could drop them. And so they chose to do the Performance Center and the empty arena, and blah 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 blah. It was a lot better once they picked up the NBA model of the Thunderdome and had the computer people in the seats. I mean, because like that Mania, that Mania was, Charlotte and Rhea stole that. That was the best match in my opinion. Those two nights. But it just, I mean, it's like Brock, dropping the title to Drew. And, I was glad to see Drew get the belt, but I felt bad for him not getting it in front of an audience. And, it's like that match was like 4.5 minutes long. I mean, and Drew went, Drew not only wins the title, but he wins it from Brock Lesnar with nobody there. And it basically, You notice when Brock loses, it's pretty much he gets Brock don't lose. Brock gets squashed when he loses.
You learn quickly how much of the WWE product is not necessarily the WWE itself, and is
No,
sort of borrowed from the crowd and the culture. Because like you have these big WrestleMania moments where everybody goes crazy, but if you have that same moment and take away the crowd, everyone's gonna go, "Oh, that wasn't that good." Like
well,
if you took the Brock Oba match where Brock took his boots off and left, and you put that match in front of no one, is that still, you know what I mean? Does that adjust your sort of temperament on the moment?
well, and no, I agree because you go back as good as people talk about like I would be remiss to find one that I like better because off the top of my head, my favorite Mania match was 25 with the first Taker Michaels match. Um,
Okay.
and but you take you take the crowd out of that match, it would still be decent to watch. But the crowd's when Michaels is kicking out of the tombstone, when nobody kicks out of the tombstone, not just once but a couple of different times, and the looks on Taker's face, like he was selling his ass off with those looks, like unbelievable. He couldn't believe Michaels was kicking out, and and the crowd did that. The crowd, and you go back to Austin Brett when they did the double turn. Does the double turn happen without the crowd? No, it doesn't. And
Yeah, that, to be fair, that moment's a little bit more centered on like crowds reaction, so I get that. Yeah, I totally get that.
I mean, so
I'll
that's
never forget the best COVID match ever. Like it that was they set a bar. I can't remember where in the timeline it was. I just know COVID hit, everybody shut down, and they had one event in New Japan where it was like only the cameramen and a couple announcers and a couple wrestlers, and El Desperado and Ishii put on like a 27-minute barn burner, and people had to stop and kind of step away because they're like, that was the best match I've ever seen, and no one was there. It's like an old Wild West story. You're like, I was one of the 17 people there for this match. Like, but it's weird how like you can put on these big epics without it being reliant on the crowd if you just know how to play the emotion of the viewer. Because in the house, at home, it's still the same storytelling. There's no that
well,
part doesn't change.
I think I haven't seen the one you're talking about, but I'm pretty sure we talked about this before. But my favorite COVID match was from Ring of Honor when they
Ooh.
did Briscoe versus Briscoe on the farm. They were him and Mark and Jay were arguing about
Oh yeah,
something,
yeah.
and Papa Briscoe was following him around, and one of the spots I remember because Mark Briscoe, if they let him beat Mark Briscoe, he's great, and like they were fighting around the farm, and they get to this pickup truck, and there's a damn wrestling table, the folding table that they put people through, and
Mm-hmm.
Mark looks at the table, and he starts pulling it out, but he stops and he looks right in the camera and he goes, "Oh, look, a table. How convenient." And I just started busting out laughing. I mean, but it was very entertaining. Papa Briscoe did very well for somebody that's not, an everyday performer per se. And,
Mm-hmm.
it was just, you could tell they were legit beating the shit out of each other on the farm, which has probably happened on definitely more than,
and
one,
and
10,
sometimes
100.
that's what you have to do to
And,
tell that story is you, instead of having the crowd there, you have to be physical. The slaps mean more. When you hit a lariat and your arm hits the chest, that slap means more. And the sweat and the way you hit the mat, like all these little things have extra little touches that, like, I think there could be a top 10 list of COVID matches, and not as like, well, they did what they could. Like, no, these could be top 10 anytime. They just so happen to be during COVID because they went with what they had.
well, the same year, I think it's the same year as Brock and Drew. There was only one COVID WrestleMania, right? There was like with no people.
I believe so. I'm
Okay. So they had WWE had the two cinematic matches. They had the Firefly Funhouse match with Bray and Cena, which had a lot of comedy stuff in it, which I did laugh at. But then they
Mhm.
had the second night they had Taker and AJ, which turned out to be
that year,
Taker's last match, and that was a really the Boneyard match. That turned, and the way they did, the trilogy of Taker's characters and everything, I thought they did real well with it. It was AJ Styles and a very beat up and battered, Mark Calloway doing the best he could, and I enjoyed the match. But back to the Briscoes, Papa Briscoe's following them around, and if you haven't seen this, I implore you to look it up. And every time they would both go down, Papa was like, "Y'all done yet? You done yet? Y'all ready to go back to being the best tag team in the world?" And they start hitting each other again. And finally, this happened 3 or 4 times. They made it back up. They had a wrestling ring inside a barn, and they got back in the ring. And, they're huffing and puffing. They were probably legit exhausted because they were going around. I don't know if they filmed this all at once or they filmed certain segments how they did it. But they get back in the ring and they're going back and forth and they're knocking each other down. They're both getting back up and they're on their knees hitting each other. And, one would go down and come back up and they finally both flopped over. And he leans down. Y'all ready to be the best tag team in the world again? Y'all done? Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're done. And good. Now get up and clean this shit up. and that was it. I was like, yeah, it was very entertaining. So there was ways to do it. AEW, WWE actually followed AEW when AEW put their wrestlers in the audience and different places around the ring during the matches to give some noise and other stuff.
What was that arena? That was a great arena because they had a sort of home base for a little bit, which I kind of like.
Daly's place.
Yeah,
which I think they're tearing down to build something else for the Jaguars there. But.
It was the closest thing that they had to like a Coker and Hall in America for AEW, and I thought that having that element of like a home base, something that gives that cozy kind of feel for when you're watching matches, like it's what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's just not replicatable. It's not easy to just go boom, here's a hall that's been with us for 20-30 years. You know what I mean? So I think it had a little bit of a chance.
I always enjoy those ECW pay-per-views because I like the 3,000 people audience. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. There is no way in hell you can get me to go to WrestleMania unless you gave me, like first, 4 or 5 rows, or before they closed the Richmond Coliseum here, I thought the best seats in the house were, I didn't want the 15th, 16th row on the floor because you couldn't see over the people in front of you. But right behind the floor, you had those risers that first started to go up. And if you got first 5, 10 rows there, man, you just had a straight shot to the ring. You could see everything.
Whatever the hard cam level is, that's what I want to see.
But you talk about times and stuff. AEW was here a couple of weeks ago. They were downtown in Richmond at the Siegel Center, and I thought about going, but first off, I'm out in the country, so that's like a 40-minute. And having to get up and go to work the next day and everything, I'm like, man, I ain't gonna be home at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. But that was at least a TV show. The last time WWE came, they were in Petersburg over at the university, and it was just a house show. And I thought about going, but again, it was number one, it was late, and even if it hadn't been late, there was no way in hell I was paying $200 to go to a house show. Just wasn't doing it.
That's. Because even when I went to the Fed maybe 10 years ago, maybe more, it was like we had the cheapest seats and they were $75 each, which was an ouch number to. Because now you want to buy a T-shirt, now you want to buy a soda, and you're like, oh, I've spent $200 by myself.
Well, the last one that we went to, I went. I've talked about it before. It was nostalgic for me going back to the Greensboro Coliseum for the first time in decades. To go see Sting's last match. It was nice to be there. The pay-per-view, in my opinion, was way too long, which I've said about AEW before, which is why I prefer to watch it in my living room versus to the arena. But they had a Sting figure that was numbered and in a case and signed that was $200. And I'm like, yeah, okay, take my money. Give me the damn figure. Plus food, plus gas. So I mean, between tickets and all, we probably, and me blowing money at the at the souvenir stand, because I got that and I got the Sting mask. It was like $30, and was that something I would buy every time I go? No, but it was his last match, and I don't know Sting personally, but I've heard of the person, and I was pretty sure that
Yeah.
you could trust him that would be his last match.
Hmm.
So I wanted something from that, and like I said, plus it was autographed with the little certificate of authenticity from it and all that happy stuff. So, but again, I agree with you. Nights it can be on any night. We've got wrestling damn near 7 days a week, and so I miss some of the old stuff. I know some of the other people don't, but that's just me. But you go back to Starrcade '83. It had had a lot. It had. It wasn't the packed cards like you see now. I mean, you go through, you find your mid card stuff, you find your opening matches, but you also had Steamboat and Youngblood against the Briscoes, which is a technical masterpiece of a tag team match. Then you had the bloody brawl of Valentine and Piper in the dog collar match, and then you had the Harley Race Ric Flair technical matchup for the world title. That Ric Flair, believe it or not, if you've never seen the match, won with a crossbody block off the top rope. So
the one time it worked.
But the last thing, and then we'll get out of here before I do my little today in pro wrestling history. The only really news I want to cover with you. Have you heard that TNA is supposedly up for sale?
Yeah, we've heard lots of rumors about TNA. Yeah.
Mike Santana reported he's apparently getting interest from WWE. Joe Hendry just made his return this past Monday on Raw, and I don't know. Tony Khan come out in the interview, said he wasn't interested. To me, with the partnership with the WWE, it looks like they would be the ones to buy it, in my opinion. But not that I think it would happen. But what if old Vinnie Mac come in and being as they have that contract, that 5-year partnership with WWE, swooped in and bought TNA?
I think that might actually be the one thing that kills TNA, because as much as people have been holding off on how should I say this? As much as the company's been sort of surviving, it's been surviving as we're not WWE. You can watch something else, and it's an alternative, whatever. I hate that phrasing, but I think if Vinnie Mac bought it, bang, it'd be him shooting himself in the foot.
Well, two things. It'd be, first off, how much they want for it. But you might be right in the long run, but I think at the short term that people would be clamoring to get to the TV to see what the old man had to say and to see what he was going to do.
I mean, I guess, but is Vince McMahon the Vince McMahon that we know to the young generation?
He can't be. What is he? 82 years old? 84?
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, if Vince McMahon comes on the TV, you and me go, "Oh, it's Vince McMahon." But does a 22-year-old fan go, "Whoa, Vince McMahon," or do they go, "Okay, it's the guy"? You know what I mean? Do they have the same relationship? Does it pull? I know it's the old 18 to 40 male demographic we're trying to pull, but
they don't know him the way we know him, but they've heard enough about him, especially the past couple of years, to where they've asked questions, looked him up. Steve Austin still talks about him. There's other people that still talk about him in a positive light. So I think they would at least tune in for 2, 3, 4 weeks they would tune in longer than you and I did when TNA went to AMC.
We
have yet to watch another episode.
I think it will help TNA as much as Vince Russo going to JCW. That's sort of my impression. I think it's going to be like a I don't know. We don't really.
Don't mistake me what I'm saying. I'm not saying he would jump in and they would just automatically overtake AEW, WWE, whatever. But it would get more interest than the product has ever had for a little bit. Here's why though. You got to take into consideration this. All of the fans that have been shitting on Triple H, not realizing that he has people to answer to, saying we want Vince back, and then you've got then you take all the fans and whatever they're going to do, but Vince McMahon coming back and buying a wrestling company. What has Vince McMahon not been in since they let him go because of this Janelle Grant situation? He hasn't been in the public eye. He hasn't been in the spotlight. So if he goes and buys another wrestling promotion to try to whatever he says, if he wants to use his NWO line, I'm buying this for what I created. Okay. It's going to get national news coverage. Now, how much, I don't know. But, I mean, in ESPN being part of Disney, I think they would even cover it, to a certain extent. I know Pat McAfee would talk about it on his show. I'm almost positive Stephen A. Smith would talk about it on his. It's going to get national coverage to some extent that would put eyes on TNA for, again, I don't know how long. I don't. I looked it up. He's 80. He'll be 81 in August. So he's almost 81 years old. So even if the younger generation knew him like we did, he's not the same guy. I mean, and that was very apparent by his last couple of whatever. He was ready. He came back and was ready to make Austin Theory the guy. And I like Austin Theory. He's serviceable in the ring, but is he a top echelon John Cena, Roman Reigns type WWE person? Not in my opinion. Maybe they just hadn't let him show it. I don't know. But that's who his next big thing was going to be, was Austin Theory. And so to me, it's obvious he's not the same guy that he was, that was able to turn to them. But you talk about the TV product versus the pay-per-view. The WWE is getting money from both angles, and they want those pay-per-views, PLEs, to succeed, because when that contract is up with ESPN, they would like to be able to get that, another deal thrown at them from Disney, but also a bidding war like Netflix sees what they're bringing in for the PLEs, and they put their name in the hat because they're already showing the PLEs internationally, and or Peacock may want them back because they dropped viewers when the PLEs went off peak. So many streaming services out there, and if they're not pulling numbers, they're not going to get those multiple offers unless they're lowball numbers and people are just trying to pump it up. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. The TNA stuff's interesting to me. Like I said, I don't think Vince is going to buy it. That's hyperbole going. What if? But we'll see who does buy it. Like I said, Tony Khan has said he's not interested in it. So we'll see. Today in pro wrestling history, 5 years ago today, the Fast and Furious 9 debuted. The film co-star John Cena as Jacob Torito.
God.
Hadn't seen it. The winner of the 2006 edition of the Diva Search, former WWE women's champion, Layla L, turns 49. Oh, dear God, I'm feeling over by the day. 31 years ago tonight, one of the most notorious WWE pay-per-views took place, King of the Ring. And Mabel beat The Undertaker with interference from Kama to advance. And due to a double elimination in the Shawn Michaels Kama match, Vega had packed the night, defeating IRS, the Roadie, and Yokozuna by countout to reach the final. Despite the big push, Mabel's main event run, including a title feud with Diesel, fell flat with fans. Yes, it did. Speaking of Mabel, you remember he was Viscera in the Ministry of Darkness, The Undertaker?
Okay.
Taker has been asked about that on interviews. He said, look, I forgot what the guy's name was, but he said, I liked him. I loved him to death. He was a big teddy bear. He goes, but I hated wrestling. He was the one that broke Taker's eye socket. And he goes, I wanted him in the ministry simply so I didn't have to wrestle his ass. I was like, well, that's fair. 3 years ago today, AEW versus New Japan Forbidden Door took place at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. Did I say that right?
Scotiabank, yeah.
Scotiabank Arena. All right. Bryan Danielson defeated Okada, despite breaking his arm during the match. Ospreay defeated Omega to win the IWGP United States title. MJF retained against Tanahashi. IWGP World Champion Sonata defeated Jungle Boy, who turned heel after the match with an attack on Hook. CM Punk defeated Kojima to win the Owen Hart Cup opening round. Tony Storm defeated Willow Nightingale. The Elite, Paige, and the Young Bucks, Eddie Kingston and Ishii defeated the Blackpool Combat Club, Moxley, Yuta,
Oh my
Claudio.
God, it's been going on for that long.
Yep, Takeshita and Numino. Sting, Darby Allin, and Naito beat Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Suzuki. 2 years ago, we lost Sika of the legendary Idolago family. Referee Jessica Carr. Wow, she's 35. Happy birthday to her. And 35. They going to put her in the ring. They better hurry up and do it. 11 years ago today, EC3 defeated Kurt Angle to win the world title, the TNA world title, at a TV taping in Orlando. That's only been 11 years ago. Okay. If you say so. 34 years ago today marked the beginning of the end of an era in WCW as the Barbarian and Dick Slater defeated the fabulous Freebirds of Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin to win the U.S. tag titles. The Midnight Raw, they were the titles. Blah, blah, blah. Basically, they were getting rid of the U.S. tag titles. Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
26 years ago today, King of the Ring took place in Boston, and Edge and Christian became the tag team champions in a Four Corners elimination match. Let's see. Looks like this. Yeah, this is the one that Kurt Angle won when he won King of the Ring. Former Smoky Mountain champion Bobby Blaze turned 63. Happy birthday, Mr. Blaze. Oh, God. Damian Demento, he's 69 today. If you have not ever heard of or seen Damian Demento, he's weird. You can look him up for something like that. 24 years ago today, a SmackDown taping in Chicago, a young John Cena made his debut by answering the Kurt Angle's open challenge, and ruthless aggression was born.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Bunch of repeats on him to make sure I missed nothing. It's a good picture. That's Carlin. 36 years ago today at Tapins in Dayton, Ohio, Animal and Hawk made their long-awaited debut in the World Wrestling Federation. Previously known as the Road Warriors, they were rebranded simply as the Legion of Doom.
Oh, my God.
Boo. 18 years ago today, the Ultimate Warrior stepped into the ring for his final match. I've heard about this, but I've never seen it. In front of a packed crowd in Barcelona, Spain, he wrestled his last match, defeating Orlando Jordan to win the New Wrestling Evolution Championship. Despite capturing the title, Warrior vacated the belt immediately after the match, signaling this would be his final in-ring appearance, with short hair, too. Wow. And finally, 38 years ago today on Superstars, Craig DeGeorge welcomed the Heenan family, Andre the Giant, Rick Rude, and Hercules to the interviewing platform. Bobby Heenan solemnly carried the crown and robe of Harley Race, announcing the race had suffered a serious injury. As the crowd applauded, Heenan lashed out at Hulk Hogan. When fans refused to bow their head for a moment of silence, Heenan accused them of showing no respect. At the end of the segment, a photo of him appeared floating in the clouds as if he had passed away rather than simply been injured. Soon, the new king would be announced, and it would become King Haku.
Oh, so way back when.
And that is today in pro wrestling history. And so, yeah, we're going to, from here on out, if something happens, we'll break in with some breaking news, all kinds of segments now, and old clips, new clips on TikTok and Instagram. So give us a follow there. We're live here on YouTube. We're live on Instagram. We are live on Facebook. So follow us everywhere. And I promise you at some point, Paul will put some footage up of himself in the ring. or you know what? It doesn't even have to be. If you're waiting on a promoter, I need you did a very good job. I don't say you did a phenomenal job on the intro video to Road Trip Wrestling. So I need you to put those skills together and give us a Rocky type video of Paul Rogers working out with some Hindu squats, some push-ups.
Oh my God. I'll have to actually break out the tripod, see where it even is.
And put some music behind it, like you're getting ready, that stuff you can do. Give us a little insight to what you go through to prepare yourself. But
I can do something like that.
Yeah, so, see, I'm a problem solver. You're welcome. Trying to get your fan base up, man.
No, I know.
Oh my! Let me dig down deep for my Jerry Maguire moment. Help me, help you. But we're gonna, like I said, Sundays from here on out, and if it'll be 8:00 unless there is a pay-per-view PLE on. Like I said, we're gonna come on an hour before the pre-show comes on to just run down the card, give you a couple predictions, and watch Paul poo poo all over whatever WWE's got going on, and you know, it's part of his charm. It is what we do.
They keep forcing my head against the grill. I don't want.
But you got anything left to add there, Paul?
No, not really. The only thing that I'm excited for is there's 3 people that haven't been finalized for the G1. So there's 3 matches where each people on the line, whoever wins, makes their way into the tournament. That starts in 2 weeks. So it's a bit of like, ooh, you know, it's like right before I don't know if there's an equivalent of like right before the playoffs start and everyone starts counting points and you're going, well, are we going to make it in the playoffs or are we not going to make it in the playoffs? And it starts getting a little down to the wire. I like that kind of tension in wrestling. I like that kind of storytelling.
Gotcha. Have you watched much stuff that I like current stuff this week?
This week I have to see when the last show was. I believe there was a couple shows this week. Yeah, Sunday and Tuesday there was a couple shows. I'll watch the Noah show, a little bit here and there, but it's all really hard to keep up with.
Well, was there any match that stood out to you this week?
There was one. Now I gotta take a second to find my list, but there was one that I thought was good enough. Oh, I'll just say the match between Tai Chi and Yuto Ice. The G1 spot is on the line, so a chance at the title. These 2 beat the tar out of each other, like ripping hair out of each other's heads, slapping each other openly in the face. Like, there is no fake in this match. It's all very there's something on the line that both of us need desperately. Taichi's aging out and he needs to show people that he still can go, and Yuto Ice is on the way in and he's a young son of a bitch, so he's trying to show these old guys who's who. Yuto Ice did win, spoilers, so he's into the one of the blocks in the G1. But yeah, it was just one of those palpable old angry man, young angry kid, and they're just grabbing each other by the hair and hurting each other. It's all-time classic.
Well, I had not seen that, so I guess you call it my match of the week if you want to, but for anybody who's been watching us for a decent amount of time knows that I am not a Jack Perry fan, but him and Zack Sabre Jr. had a very good match last time on Dynamite. Now I will I'll give Jack Perry the benefit of the doubt and say that it was 40% him and 60% Zach, when the back of my head wants to say it was probably 85 to 90% Zach, putting him in the right place at the right time. But I'll give old Jungle Jack benefit of the doubt. But I'm not a big Jack Perry fan. I never have been. Not a big fan of the Lucha Express. Not the Lucha Express. You know what the hell I'm trying to say. But they they had a good match last night. I just never found Jack Perry to be that entertaining. So. But very good match.
I loved his House of Torture run because he's a little guy and you can make him a sniveling heel with lots of cheating and lots of people to help him, and it's perfect position for that kind of wrestler to be in. Yeah, and then he flexes. He cheats and he flexes, and it's it's so good.
Yeah, there's some of that stuff that I saw, and if you were going, keep him around after the CM Punk stuff, which they did, which is fine. Doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but the whole scapegoat stuff that they sent him over to Japan to do, I thought it was brilliant. And then they just brought him back to the States, and it was just like nothing. It was it was all for naught. And
they don't have the same application of their roster as they do in New Japan. It's just not the same framework.
So, well, like I said, it was a good match between him and Zach. They they went to beat him up some more, and here come everybody running out, and then Kenny Omega just got on the mic and ruined it all. But Zach threw a little shot parting out, about make sure to keep your inside straight or not to get any intestinal problems between now and Sunday. That was his parting shot. But funny segment with the dog. Funny segment with the dogs and Edge and Christian last night. They're fighting through. The Bucks are trying to get an interview, and the Bucks are just like, "Y'all good? Yep." And they keep fighting. So Dynamite was pretty good last night. Main event. Hell, I don't know what that main event was. It doesn't matter. But so yeah, it was a good episode of Dynamite last time. Like I said, when they said that line about Zack Sabre, what he had said about American wrestling audiences, technical wrestling, I mean, I'm literally sitting there.
Oh, he said that years ago. That's a recycled line.
Yeah, but I'm sitting there cooking something, and I'm just stopping. I'm like, he ain't wrong, and I kept on going. But all right, so you got anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's it. That's all. Just excited for the G1, and that's bloody 2 weeks away. So I'm gonna sit here biding my time until then.
Well, you've got Night of Champions to keep you.
Oh, good.
Well, all right. He says he's done, so I guess it means I am too. For Paul, I'm Jason. No gimmicks, just wrestling. We are the Hardcam. We will see you Saturday at 1:00 for the countdown to Night of Champions, and we'll be back on Sunday for the countdown to Forbidden Door. So until then, we might go take a road trip, but we'll see you next time. Oh, yeah!